on your video. I don't want to be on video.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Lakewood Marriage. Good morning, everybody. Give yourselves a hand. Good morning, everybody. And if you haven't, let's give Jesus a hand. Come on, let's give him a hand. That's why we're here too. Good morning, everybody. We are going to get ready to get started here. We are Vaginary Riggins. We have an exciting class. It's a continuation from last week.
Power Pack
Couple. And we'll be introducing them in a second. Before we get started, we have 3 books that we want to give away this morning. Divine Disruption, and then Uncommon Marriage.
Wow.
By Tony and Lori Dungy. This book here is by Dr. Tony Evans and his family. So let's figure out how to give this away. Who's been married the longest?
Over 20 years.
Over
20.
Oh, okay, over 20. All right, how about over 30 years?
Over 30. Over there. Wait, you too.
Okay, so keep your hands up. Over 30. Okay, how about 35? Over 35. Over 40.
Wait. I think we only had 135.
135.
Only one over 35?
All right, Mr. Sammy Freeman and his wife, give them a hand. Good to see you, Mr. Freeman. I told you I'd catch you. The last time we catch you up in here.
So maybe do over 30 next, and how far over 30? Like
Okay.
under 35.
How far was 30?
33.
33?
33.
34?
34.
34.
So maybe one each?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
All right, how many 1 week married? 1 day?
You're already in class.
3 hours? Just came from the chapel. Just flew in from Vegas. Who did? How about, 1 year? 1 year married.
Wait.
How many, wait a
The
minute.
newest.
How many months? 5 months?
Anybody
Yeah,
less
less
than
than
5?
5 months. 4.5 months.
Anybody less than that?
2 months?
2? A year, 2 months?
Oh, a year.
4.5 months?
Okay.
All right. Give me a hand.
That's a great book. So, yeah.
And any new couples here? First time. Let's give them a hand. Welcome to class. Welcome. Well, let's bring up Jeff and Michelle Collins this morning. They're going to open up in prayer, and they are going to be our speakers this morning. Continuing
Give them a big hand.
Give them a big hand from last week. They're going to continue their awesome lesson. They'll open up in prayer.
Thank you. Okay, well, so let's open up in prayer real quick.
Sure, awesome. You want me to pray?
I love your prayers.
Thank you. Father God, we thank you for a platform that our wonderful pastor provides for us to talk about marriages, Father. We thank you, Father, that February has been a month of intimacy. We thank you, Father, that we will dive deep into our marriages and into our lives to be able to see intimacy. And Father, that today when we talk about sex, that people are open to receive that, Father, you created sex for enjoyment between a husband and a spouse, for it not to be dirty or ugly or uncomfortable, but to be enjoyed, loved, and free to be able to have intimacy at the highest level, like we do with you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I love that. Am I on the right side of you? Should I be over here? Which
You're
side
on
looks-
whatever side you want.
Okay,
Whatever you
I just
want.
want to make you look the best, okay?
Thank
So
you.
whatever side you want me on.
So I'm gonna be more nicer to you.
Well, we're talking a little bit about that today. So that's a great segue.
Pray for me. I need to be nicer to him.
Thank you for my jacket. So we were asked actually kind of by a surprise to do part 2 of what we taught last week. Normally we have other teachers
That are fabulous.
that are, oh my gosh,
Amazing.
Mary and Melvin. So we they weren't available, and keep Mary in your prayers just for perfect health. And so what we're going to kind of do is basically a part 2 of what we taught last week. And for those of you that weren't here last week, it's okay. We're just going to do a quick synopsis. We ended with this slide last week. And this slide is basically kind of, now that you've unpacked your bags, because we talked about what are all the things, what are the reasons that get in the way of being intimate? What are the things that you bring hurt pockets, you bring your own baggage? These are the things that you react out of fear, out of insecurity, out of pain. And it's hard to have true intimacy with your partner when you're reacting out of those things, most of the time subconsciously, because you haven't unpacked them, you haven't looked at them, you haven't healed them.
Right, and also we made inner vows, and I didn't even know what inner vows were until I started attending class and really diving deep into books that really, like Jimmy Evans and Jimmy Evans on Marriage on the Rocks, and just hearing Naked Marriage. If you guys do not know who Ashley Clayton, and just kidding, they'll talk about anything with us too, but it's Ashley and Dave, and it's called Naked Marriage. They have a podcast and they have a great book, and they're going to be here for Spark, so we're super excited. So what we're going to talk about is what Jeff and I have uncovered, and you guys, we do all this because we need it, not because we know or we're at a 10 or we're perfect. We have a lot of flaws. We have been doing this marriage thing for over 7-8 years, and we've had the honor to be able to link arms with these amazing leaders and pastors, and we're still figuring it out. I mean,
On the daily.
I have so much more growth than Jeff needs, because I show up with more baggage at times and I act out of it. And so I just continuously grow through all the stuff that we have.
So I think this is God in action right here, because this slide is actually supposed to say, know thyself, forgive thyself, heal thyself, and love thyself. But God's just putting up there, know thyself and forgive thyself. So,
and why is this so important, Jeff? And the reason this is so important, and the reason we talked about it yesterday, and it was a pretty heavy subject last year. I could feel the temperature and the energy in the room just last week. Sorry, did I see yesterday?
Last year.
Last year, okay. I've been talking about it since last year. And because when you know thyself and you can heal thyself and love thyself, he can see into me, like we talked about, intimacy is into me see. And without that knowledge and wisdom of me knowing why I show up the way I do and react the way I do and do what I do, and react to relationships the way I do, which is the most important, is God, then us. When we do this right, this is so much more easy. When we do this right, this is so much more enjoyable. When we do this right, we can be servants to one another.
And these are the steps, like what we covered last week in the slide. These are steps to help you reach that intimacy, to have intimate conversations, to feel open, to feel vulnerable. On the next slide, I embedded a video, and some of you may have seen this. I love this because it's about a minute and a half, but in one specific spot, there is a sign of true intimate conversation and communication. Take a look at the video.
There's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's gonna stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me most, is that I don't know if it's ever gonna stop.
You do have a nail in your head.
It's not up to me.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of this.
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing.
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail.
See, you're not gonna figure it out.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like, there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I just leave it alone and all the sweaters are snagged, I mean, all of them.
Sounds really hard.
Thank you.
Come on, if you would just.
Don't.
How many of you guys have seen that on the show of hands? You know, and how many times we know that, and we know that we come to our spouse and they never know what I call it tennis. I throw something at Jeff, not literally. I throw a problem or a situation, And then he gets into, let me just fix it so I can move on and go back into my man box and, close up what I was already in. And we now,
Done.
yeah. And I'm like, stop trying to fix it. I want you just to listen. So we started to do, when we were having problems in that area, Jeff started to ask me, what?
So, if we're going to have this conversation, would you like me to just listen? Or would you like me to offer a solution?
And most of the time, how often do I want you just to listen?
Just listen. Most of the time, it's
Yeah.
please just listen.
And as my healing process happened, I needed him to listen. I didn't really need him to agree with me. I just needed him to listen to me and say, this is all I'm unpacking. And some of it's uncomfortable, some of it doesn't make sense, and some of it, and he's like, okay. And he heard some stories over and over and over and over.
Yeah, and I love this slide. I totally grabbed this slide. And when you have those intimate conversations, when you unpack all that stuff, when you get to a vulnerable point like that gentleman, she's got a nail in her forehead. And you just want to just, But you take a moment, and do you want me to just listen and just understand where you are at the moment? And when you do that, there is something that opens up inside of us. I believe that the Holy Spirit really starts to stir and gives us the opportunity to know thyself, to heal thyself, to forgive thyself, to love thyself. When you can be in that moment, when you can share those kind of things, it's like this. Now I get it.
Because it's awkward for a lot of us, especially me, not so much Jeff, is silence. Silence can be scary. And silence inside of what we're hearing and what the voices are telling us and the programming that we've had can be sometimes unbearable. So what we're going to move on to is we're going to talk about, I'm going to have you do a little activity, so take your phones out. And don't let your spouse see this because I don't want it for now. It's for later. It's for year two, at the right timing, the right turf, the right, place for you guys to unpack this. Is our goal today is two things. Is to start the conversation on intimacy and where you're at and where your spouse is at and where are you at sex and where is your spouse at. So when you guys unpack this, because we've done this exercise plenty of times, Pastor Clayton has done this with us, is where's your marriage at? We're taking this to now, where's your sex life and where's your intimacy? Now the difference between intimacy, before you answer this question, is intimacy is that you feel, scale of 1 to 10, I feel a 9 or a 10 to be intimate with my husband about every dark secret, every hurt pocket.
10 being the best.
10 being the best, that I feel safe with him. To be able to share that intimacy with them, whatever it involves, whether it's work, whether it's a friendship, whether it's my body, whether it's us, that's the intimacy piece. The sex piece is about you. Where are you on this? If it is, not literally, where are you in sex as far as being satisfied? Not your husband's number, your number. All right, so there's two things. The first one is, where are you in intimacy? Scale of 1 to 10, write that down. And then number 2 is, where are you? And don't look at your spouses. It's not time for an argument or a discussion. Where are you in your sex life? And what I mean by that is satisfaction, fulfilled, content, safe. It's just wonderful or great or not. The reason we want you to talk about these two things is Jeff and I have been married 12 years. And we realize we talk about a whole lot. But there's some areas we don't go down that road for whatever reason, and we started to talk about that, and it was what to you?
It was a little uncomfortable because we haven't started to unpack that bag.
Right, and what I heard a long time ago before I...
And just so you know, you bring bags to the marriage, but don't forget, sometimes you buy new bags when you're in the marriage.
You
and
put
sometimes you pack those bags after you've been married for a while.
Right, from situations that happen and stuff like that. That's a good point, Jeff. So I want you to put those numbers away. It's not time for you to, and then I'll tell you at the end what I want you to do with them. Jeff and I will share with you. So what we're going to talk about today is we want you to leave with information, but we want you to move forward. Nothing happens.
Put into action.
Yes,
we love
nothing
action.
happens until action is put in place. So what we mean with this is that I'll use Clayton and Ashley. Clayton and Ashley could be a 10 in their intimacy level. And they could be a 9 in their sexual fulfillment in their own, Ashley could be a 9, Pastor Clayton could be a 10. And that's great. But even though they have these conversations and even though they sit down, they can continue to move forward to a next level. If it's a 1 or 2, it doesn't mean your marriage is bad. It just means that area is lacking some type of attention. What I do know is there's a statistic that I learned a long time ago before I even married Jeff. If you are 100% fulfilled in your sexual part of your marriage, it becomes 10% of your marriage. If you are not, it becomes 90% of your marriage. If you, and it's the opposite too, so if 10% of your marriage is just a piece of sex, the 90% is the fulfilling part. Jeff and I have a marriage, and it started off because my last marriage wasn't that. My last marriage, sex was 90% of it, meaning it was dysfunctional, it was unsafe. Because I realized now
90% of the issues you focus on.
yes.
There's peripherals that are attached to those conversations, but that's kind of the heartbeat or the core of what that is.
What I realized as I unpack that is because what was missing in my first marriage was the reason it was so intensified with that is because I lacked the intimacy and the security piece.
And the safety.
And the safety, because the number one need for women is security and safe. I feel safe to share this with you, that you're not going to use this against me, you're not going to hold this against me, and you're not going to hurt me with this information.
So as a perfect example, maybe sex or issues around sex could be the nail in the forehead.
Yes, yes.
And you're not being sensitive to, okay, I understand that that's a problem. We've got this issue. Clayton and Ashley do this great analogy. They say, you and I are great. You and I are awesome. But we've got this thing, whatever this thing is. That's what we need to talk about. So maybe that's the nail in the forehead.
And we sat down and we really think it's God that we're teaching today, because we had some areas in the sexual part and the intimacy part that we needed to uncover. And as we sat down and talked about it, the same activity we are having you do, we did. And I said, Jeff, what is your number and in sex that for you, don't think about me, think about you.
Right.
And what is your intimacy number? And he asked me the same thing. And what we realized was quite astonishing.
It was a nice eye-opener.
And then I asked him the next question, what was your number in sex when we were first together, after being married, when we were intimate and we were first date, in our honeymoon phase, and that number was higher for him. And it was higher for me. And 12 years later, my number has gone down and his number has gone down on the
But
sexual
the intimacy has gone on.
And that was the eye-opening piece, because the intimacy number from now compared to the beginning, the sex number went down and my intimacy number went up. And we said, why? Why is that happening? Because we know, one thing we know, and I want you guys to know, if you are dealing with these conversations that you're not having them, or it's uncomfortable, or your number's low, we can't be the only ones. You don't have to raise your hand, but I know we're not the only ones that have a good marriage, but can take it to a next level and also can feel comfortable to be vulnerable with one another to talk about this. You guys, I will tell you, I've grown up in church, in the Catholic Church, and I know all the rules and regulations about being baptized, who you're praying to, where we are in the service, how we say, peace be with you. I know all of that, but I never heard them talk about sex in the marriage class in the Catholic Church. What I'm telling you is that even in the church level, we need to talk about this stuff, because what happens, and what I told Jeff is, where has anyone linked arms with you and talked to you about this as another man? And I asked him some deep questions like, have you sat around with your friends and that are even Christian friends, and that you guys have just talked about this sex or intimacy piece? And he's like, not really, we joke a lot. And I told him the same thing for me, because it's uncomfortable and it's awkward, and sex isn't meant to be. It's meant to be enjoyed and fulfilled, and God created sex for us.
And normally most guys, we're getting together and we're sitting down talking about sports, talking about golf, enjoying a cigar around a campfire or something like that. And normally we're not talking about, hey, I've got an issue having sex with my wife. It's
Wait, you haven't said that to Roy and Pat and Pastor Clayton?
No, we really haven't gotten to that conversation.
I'll schedule your guys' conversation
All right,
later.
yeah. So can we get that on the schedule, guys? And on the next slide, we started listening to some podcasts and reading some books and hearing some quotes and one of the things that just kind of kept sticking with me in my brain that we're going to be talking about intimacy and sex is I love to. Are there any children in here?
Hit me.
Well, I love, and please take this with the gentlest of heart. I love to pleasure my wife. I love to serve my wife.
I thought you were saying you're comfortable talking about sex.
Well, I am. Obviously, I am. I mean, come on.
That was not part of the agreement and the sex or the slide.
That's why I love doing this. I'm just saying.
Wow.
Improv. So, yeah. So,
So let's unpack that for a second. The reason I'm uncomfortable is because nobody talked to me about sex. Nobody told me what I should be doing and how it should happen and how beautiful it is once you're married. And Jeff's mother at 13 took him out, told him, get a suit on. I'm going to show you how to take a woman on a date. I'm going to talk to you about sex. I'm going to talk to you about, you should say this.
About how to pleasure a woman.
Yes, and I'm like, what? What is wrong with her? And then we got married, they would joke in front of me, and I'm like, this is not okay. But this is what we bring to our marriage.
So guess what? Here's her suitcase. Here's a stinky old pair of underwear that has to do with sex.
Why does it have to be underwear? It's just not comfortable.
At least I didn't say lingerie.
So what we're going to talk about is our norms and what's different. Jeff's family was very free about talking about this. My family was like, it didn't exist, and I knew it was happening. I'll tell you something that was really sad, is my oldest sister, she didn't even talk to me about sex, but my mom told her once she got her menstrual cycle, if a man lays on top of her, she will be pregnant. That's how it was delivered to her. And she came home for a week. She was crying and having an attitude to us. I'm like, what is wrong? She's like, I think I'm pregnant. I'm like, how could you be pregnant? You don't have a boyfriend. And she's all, these guys were playing around and they dogpiled us. And she was in torment because of the way somebody delivered something to her. And
so here she brings that into the marriage. I bring kind of this open, expressive, have fun, sometimes a little inappropriate way to talk about it.
You're weird. I told my friends, he's weird. Our second date, he was talking about how much he enjoyed sex, and I got down from the car and slammed the door, and I'm like, I'm a good Christian woman. Who the heck does he think he is? And I'm like, he is weird. I told my friends, and then I married him.
That's another class. However, so as our marriage has evolved, as we've spent all this time with each other, as we've enjoyed each other, there's become a little bit of an issue, a little bit of a pair of stinky underwear. She has some areas of discomfort around certain parts of sharing a sexual experience with me. And
we don't talk about it.
And we don't talk about it, number one.
That's what
There's no
happens.
intimacy in that conversation. So guess what? Those stinky pair of underwear get thrown in the corner. Guess what? The room starts to really smell.
Stop. Wow.
It's just an analogy.
All right, so here's where we want to go.
Okay, it's a lunch sack with a bunch of rotten food in the corner. Okay.
It's a bag to unpack. All right, so what we talked about, and as we went through all of this, you can hear Naked Marriage on sexual intimacy with Ashley and Dave. They do a great job. What we hear as we have the opportunity and the pleasure to speak to couples is they said, I don't think we're sexually compatible. I don't think she desires me anymore. I don't think he desires me anymore. Or he has desires that I don't want to do. And
he or she's not having sex with me, so he must be having sex with somebody else.
Right. And I'm afraid to talk about other things in the bedroom, what he wants or she wants. What I will tell you is that, I'll be careful as we unpack this, is what I'll say is, what I understand now, listening to Jimmy Evans, it's not about me in the bedroom. It's about Jeff in the bedroom. Because Jesus has shown us, and he talks about this a lot at the Last Supper. And if you guys go back and read about the Last Supper, he was about to go to the cross for all of us. And he was about to leave his people. And what he did that day, and the reason Jimmy Evans talked about this, and I thought it was so great, is he showed an act of servantship to his people, and he washed their feet. We all know the story. And there were a few of them that felt very uncomfortable, like, don't do this, don't do this. And he said, Peter, if you don't let me do this, we can't have the relationship that we need to have. And I'm just paraphrasing it.
And so when we kind of dove into this, I took away from this that in relationships and marriages, sometimes there can be an unhealthy balance of who gets what, who does what to who and why. And when you approach a healthy sexual relationship and marriage in the same way that Jesus approached the apostles at the Last Supper, they were sitting there arguing with each other of who's the best.
Yes, that was good, Jeff.
And Jesus said to have relationship in a servant mind. We're not talking about who's lording over each other. So in intimacy in the bedroom, when you can share coming from a place of security, peaceful power, soft, gentle power of I can serve you, I can be a servant in whatever way you need me to be a servant. And it does not diminish me in any way. If anything, it confirms my gentle, peaceful power as a servant.
And the only way Jesus could serve them at that level was because he wasn't insecure. See, people look at it like, don't wash my feet. You're too big and too powerful. You're our God. Don't wash our feet. But what he was saying, as a servant, I can wash your feet because I'm comfortable in my security. And when you're comfortable in your security and you're comfortable, I can come to him and say, this is uncomfortable and awkward for me, and I don't know why. But then
we set the great time, the great place. We call it timing and turf. And to have that conversation versus letting this little thing turn into a bag in the corner that smells really bad.
So what I want to tell you is that not every couple is going to have the same desires or libido. They're not always going to match. Most likely they're going to be opposite. But it's very rare for them to match. But a good sex life is a person serving each other. A man and woman, it's just all about serving. So I wanted to say, people will say, well, what about chemistry? We have to match in chemistry. You guys, chemistry will come and go because it will come and go based on how you feel about yourself.
And chemistry changes as you grow and as you age.
Right.
It changes.
And the one thing that should never change, because with chemistry, it could be hormones, it could be stress, it could be weight, it could be argument that you had, or how you're loving your spouse outside of the bedroom. But what I will tell you is the one thing that should never go, and the one thing that I should always tell Jeff, and Jeff should always tell me, is that you can count on me to serve you for the rest of your life, in and out of the bedroom. And when I can say that to him, and I asked him that, I said, do you believe that when I say that to you? And he said, yes, I believe you when you say that to me.
I do. And along that same line, I loved this one where it describes that servanthood is the only spirit that experiences true emotional, spiritual, or sexual intimacy. And there was a saying that he said during this podcast that it's impossible to have intimacy with a selfish person.
Oh, that's beautiful. Say that again.
It's impossible to have intimacy with a selfish person. So
sometimes I'm that selfish person.
All of us have that fallibility.
I'm not willing to talk about it. So the greatest marriages is two people serving each other. The greatest intimacy is two people serving each other. The greatest sexual experience is two people serving each other. Do you understand the common denominator? It's serving each other. It's serving each other in and out of the bedroom. For women, serving and the passion starts outside of the bedroom. So there's 4 levels of intimacy, and we won't get into that. And we won't be able to cover everything today. We're just going to leave you with a couple of nuggets. And we're just starting to open the door for you guys, and you guys will continue on when you go home if you so choose to.
6 minutes.
Okay, is the one thing I will tell you is We are starting a series for 6 weeks that will be 2 hours long, 1 day a week. There will be a small fee, and we'll tell you about this later because we know that this is needed. Not just about intimacy, but also about us healing ourselves first. So we will share that with you guys later, that Jeff and I are doing with a few coaches. And what I will tell you is that as we unpack all this and we understand each other, is that it becomes our pleasure to serve. We came back from LeBlanc, and everybody that went, Gina was one of them, and Daryl, Gina and Daryl, what was the one common thing every person and every employee said to you when you asked them for something?
How can we help you? How can we serve you?
How can we serve you? How can I help you? I mean, I get chills.
It's my pleasure.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure is like their tattoo on their heart and their forehead. It's my pleasure. When my husband says, or I say thank you for sex, or thank you for intimacy, the only words we're starting to practice, and it's difficult, is saying what?
I'm sorry.
Seriously. It's my pleasure.
It's my pleasure.
We've been saying that, and you think you're funny sometimes.
I am
funny. It's my pleasure. And we kept saying that from every couple that was at LeBlanc, kept saying, we kept joking. We started telling each other, right, Ashley and Clayton and Gina, we started saying, it's my pleasure. We would do something for each other. You guys, it's a whole other language.
You know, and the bottom part of this slide that's up there, when we're talking about that, it's my pleasure, being a servant, coming from a servant heart, having that intimate conversation, being open to that intimate conversation. Sometimes, I would say this is more of an issue for men than it is for women, but men sometimes are afraid of being there as a servant because they feel they're going to be taking advantage of. And it won't be reciprocated. Now, women, I'm sure, feel that as well. But I saw this quote, and it says, when I'm serving you, I am not putting myself in a weaker position. I am choosing, it is a choice to be intimate. I am choosing to be vulnerable by placing myself in a place of humility, not a place of pride.
It's good. I also, because we're going to wrap up and we're going to talk about what we want you guys to do at home. There's more to share, but we never have enough time because we love this stuff. Is what I will tell you is when you serve and you say yes, and I have a hard time with I'm to be submissive, because it doesn't mean that Jeff has power over me in the bedroom or in our home. It means we discuss this. And one couple may go from A to Z in the bedroom and bring all kinds of things in the bedroom, and I may not even want to go past B. And it's what we both agree on. It's not just Jeff's way, and it's not just Michelle's way. And until we can understand what that means and understand and go deeper to say, why is that important to you, Jeff?
Why do you stop at B? I want to go to DEF. Why do you stop at B?
Right. I'm like, and if you can't feel safe with A and B, I can never get to C or D. So you guys, I just want you to know that our goal is, so we'll talk about as we end, and then we're going to end on prayer. I know we normally don't, we're going to do a prayer.
And a caveat to that conversation is, I understand you want to stop at B, and I'm going to respect that.
Thank you.
Until we can have that conversation and unpack it. And that what ends up happening is she feels or he feels like they're safe to go to D, E, F, whatever.
Because if not, then we have resentment and anger, and it's going to push us further away.
Right, and that creates just this bigger gap where there's less sex, there's less communication, less intimacy.
All right. I also get asked really quick, and before I end, is how many times a week should we be having sex if we're a healthy married couple?
90.
0. And it's all up to you. Because we looked at statistics, and sometimes people are having sex twice a year, and I'm like, whoa, we're better than that. We got that down. And then there were people there were 25% that were having sex at least twice a week, and I'm like, dang, do they have children? Do they work?
Right.
And because I was like, that is not us. We're not
Where
at
do they
25%.
find time for that?
So it's all over the place. What I will tell you is it doesn't matter how often you have sex. It matters how much you're enjoying the experience together, how much you're enjoying it, how much he's enjoying it. That's what matters.
And men, just a suggestion, the more you listen to your wives without trying to fix it, probably the more sex you're going to have.
We will tell you too, I love that. Jimmy Evans said that there were nights where he would go to Karen and say, they had their nights scheduled. So if sex was every Tuesday for them, it would be Tuesday, the first of the month would be her Tuesday. And he said, we would schedule it, and it worked for them. And if that works for
Her
you guys,
Tuesday might be a lot of talking.
yes, it's going to be a lot of talking, and there may not even be sex at the end of it.
Right.
And he said, if it's his Tuesday,
It might be 15
he's like, you
minutes.
go to bed early. We only need about 15 minutes. It's my night. It's all about this, and it's on. And so, you know, you get to know that. I try to schedule this. I try to schedule. It has nothing to do with right.
Yeah, I know.
We try to do that. We try to schedule, and Jeff says, you make me sound like I'm part of your job and checklist. And I'm like, okay, I was just trying. If you want to just schedule it so that I know that that's your day or my day. And he's like, no. And I'm like, and what we were laughing about, me and my friends were talking at LeBlanc, is I said, you know, we just have to be comfortable talking about it, so I'll end with it. But the piece that with your numbers. All right, so going back with your numbers, find a safe place, whether it's dinner, taking her out to dinner, or taking him out to dinner, or out in the back porch, or wherever you're comfortable with today, tomorrow, sometime this week, and say, can we talk about this? Can we talk about what your number was and mine? Try to guess each other's number. Jeff guessed my sexual number, and I was quite surprised, because I'm like, if you know that's my number, then why haven't we talked about this?
Right. If you know that's my number, then why aren't we talking about it?
And because our sex number has gone down, and our intimacy number has gone up. So what I want you to do is I want you to talk about it. Here's what I want you to do before you talk about it.
And the little nugget to what she just said is the great thing is our intimacy has gone up, which makes us comfortable talking about it, which is going to open the door for the opportunity for that sexual number to go up.
Yes. So the first thing you have to do before you discuss each other's number is you two have to pray over each other.
Amen.
You have to take each other's hands, whether he wants to do it or she doesn't want to do it, and one of you have to do it. And I came to Jeff and I said, hey, I want to talk. It's the worst thing you can tell your husband. He's like, oh, how long and what did I do? And what you have
How do
to
I fix it?
pray over each other. And here's a simple prayer, if you don't know what to say. Father, do not let my spouse get offended by this. Do not let them think that it's about them. It's about me wanting to serve them and love them more. And tell me
You and I
that.
are good. Here's the thing.
Me and you are good, and we're going to stay married, and we're going to stay together. I want to talk about this so that we can get healthier, and I want to serve you. When I say that to him, he is.
It feels good.
You're so happy.
Feels
It's
good.
just, instead of,
Because it opens the door for me to feel like, oh, I get to serve you too.
and here's what I'll tell you.
You know, and we want to respect anybody's time. If you feel you need to head off to
We
a
need 2
service,
minutes
please
and we'll
feel
be-
free to do that.
we'll
We're
wrap
gonna-
this
We're
up.
going to wrap it up.
Is there were some moments when Jeff said some stuff to me, true transparency, is, well, your number would be higher if this, and this. And I said, hold on, because before we said this, we agreed that it was both of us in this. You just put me on a team by myself, and you just told me I was making the team lose.
Some of my pain, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of my pain and some of my hurt was starting to bubble up. I was unpacking stuff that we haven't addressed.
And I had to keep saying to myself, you're on the same team, you're on the same team, he doesn't mean to hurt you. And I said, this is what I just heard. He says, well, I didn't mean that. And then we would start again. Because remember, and we also agreed when we walk away from here, because we did it, we discussed it, we didn't do it, we discussed it in his office, and we said when we leave here, we're going to hug and pray over each other, and this is not going to affect what we're going to do next. And we're going to dinner. So I want you guys to talk about that. I want you guys to say is just to be willing to have that conversation. Are you guys even at least willing to do that? Okay. All right. So let's wrap up and let's pray. What I do want to tell you is this class that we're putting together for 6 weeks, it's just so that there's so many people and so many phone calls we're getting about that they need help. And it's not just in a marriage. It's like, what do I do with my life? What do I do with my finances? What do I do with my children? So this class is about you. And it's going to be a 6-week course, and it's 2 hours the same day every week. For 6 weeks, we'll meet at the same place. It'll be in person and via Zoom. We'll let you know more about that later.
Thank you, beloved Lord, that we have the opportunity to share in your word, in your unity, under the love of your Son, Jesus Christ, that the words that have come out of Michelle and I's mouth, hopefully they have delivered a message that you've meant to lay upon somebody's hearts or all of their hearts and minds. Thank you for this opportunity to share together in a communion of love, joy, peace, intimacy, and celebrating each other's bodies, minds, spirits, and souls. Amen.
Amen. You guys, one last thing. Oh, we have Marriage Connect tonight, and what we're going to talk about on Marriage Connect tonight
That's on Zoom.
is intimacy also. What we're going to talk about is you can't have true intimacy if you're not willing to lay your pride and fear down. 6 p.m. on Zoom. And
You
if
can
you
find
don't,
that Zoom link on the
Lakewood
Lakewood Marriage
Marriage.
page.
Yeah. All right. God bless you guys. Have a great day.